Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and I'm here with another interview question. So the question is, how many overload, add and addAll methods are available in your list interface, and you have to tell the meaning of each of these methods. So there are a total of about 4 overloaded methods for add and addAll in the list interface. So let's take a look at what all these methods are, and then we are also going to see an example where we are actually going to use these add and addAll methods. Okay, so the first method you have is add, and it takes in a parameter of the type element. Basically, it can be an integer element you want to pass in, or a string, or whatever your list is consist of. Okay, this method is used for adding the element at the end of the list. So if, let's say, you have a list and onto that list you want to add something at the end, then in that case you're going to use the add method and you will pass the element that you want to add to the list. Okay, and this particular method returns a return type of a boolean that basically tells you if that element was successfully added or it wasn't added. Okay, the data type of the element is of any type it has been initially assigned with. So whatever your list is and whatever the type of element you are trying to add to the list, that is what the data type of the element would be. And as I mentioned to you, this method returns the boolean indicated if the element was successfully added or not. Then the next method that is there is this add with an index and element, which takes in 2 parameters. One is of the type integer and the other is your element. So let's say if you want to add an element somewhere in the middle of the list, or you want to add at a specific index, then in that case you can use this add and you can pass in which index you want to add the element at, and this method returns is of the type void here. Okay, so if you want to specifically add an element at a given index, then in that case you're going to use this particular method, and the return type of this method is void. This method is the overloaded version of the add method, and in this, along with the element, the index is also passed to the method. For the specific index, the value needs to be inserted. So let's say your list contains of Sam, Adam, and let's say Michael. Now you want to add another element after Adam. So here it will be at index of 2, you want to add another element called John. Okay, that is what when you will use this add method, where you are passing the index and you're passing your element also. Now the third method is, if let's say you want to add a list of elements, not just one element, you have one list and onto that list you want to add another elements from a particular list, then that way you can use this addAll. It takes in, it's a collection of elements. This method helps to add all elements at the end of collections from the list received in the parameter. So let's say list1 dot of add, and then you're passing your list2. Basically, onto this list you will add the elements from the list2 at the end of this list. Okay, so if let's say list1 is ending here, then list2 will be starting from here. Okay, so those elements will get added to this list. Now if you don't want to add the elements from the list at the end, you can also use this overloaded method. So if you don't want to add the elements at the end of the list, you can also provide the index from which you want to add that other collection of those elements. Okay, this is the overloaded method for addAll. In this, along with the list, we can pass the specified index from which the list elements need to be added. So if you want to add those list element from a starting point or from an in particular index, then you can also pass the index also to this addAll method. And what will it do is it will add those elements from that given index only. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an example to make things much more clean. So here I'm in my Eclipse here. So what I've done is, here I've created a class called list example. That is the name of the class, and then inside of this I have a main method, and here is where the fun begins. So I've created a list here, and it is of the type string, so it contains string elements. And onto the list, so this is my first list here, what it has, and then let's say the name of the list is L, and it has Adam in there, then it has John, and then the other element it has is Shruti. Okay, this is the 3 elements the list has. So the size of the list is currently 3, and we print the value of L. So what will get printed? Adam, John, and Shruti will get printed, correct? Then what we are doing is, then we are creating another list here. So there is another list that I'm creating, which is also of the type string. Okay, and the name of the list is ARR, and it is of the type string as well. And in this you have Sam, Michael, and Robert. Sam, Michael, and Robert. This is your second list that you have created. Then you are printing the value of this list, which is going to print Sam, Michael, and Robert. All good up till now. Then what we are doing is we are using L.of_addAll. So you can see you're adding these elements, and which method you're using? The add method. And then you're saying L.of_addAll array. So in this main list, you are adding the elements from this list. So what will be the final list of the L will change to? Now L will have Sam in it at the end, then it will have Michael in it, and then also it will have Robert in it. So the final version of L becomes the whole list. Now let's see if the output of the program is correct. So now I'm going to go ahead and do run as and Java application. You can see here the first, the Adam, John, and Shruti will print it because that was this line. Then your other second list will get printed, which is Sam, Michael, and Robert. And then again, L will have everything added. So this is going to get printed. Now, if you see, after Shruti only, the other elements got added. But let's say if I, instead of that, instead of this, if I said something like L.addAll, and here I am passing the index also. I'm passing at the index of, say, let's say at 1. Okay, at index of 1 I want to add the whole list. Instead of this, so then what will happen is the output will change. The output will be Adam is at index of 0. Okay, now index of 1 we are adding this element, so Sam will be the next element, Michael would be there, and then we will have Robert, and then whatever is in the everything else will shift. So then Shruti, sorry, then it will be John, and then it will be Shruti. Let's say if this output changes. So now run as Java application. So you can see here you have Adam, Sam, Michael, Robert, John, and Shruti. So the output is correct. So this is how this add and addAll. So add is just simple. It just adds the element at the end of the list. If you want to add these element at a given index, then you pass that index also. Similarly, in the addAll also, it adds elements from one list to another list and at the end of that list. So if you want to add the elements at a specific index, then you can also provide the index number from which you want the elements to be added, and that is your this addAll method. Okay, I hope this is crystal clear, all the methods that we discussed related to the list interface, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Stay tuned.